All the identifiers such as the functions, labels and all the variables are defined with their scope, which actually tells where the identifiers will be visible and accessible in the program. In general, we are saying local and global terms, but in C, the four distinct refined scopes are available. Understanding of this all scope is essential for writing clear, modular, and bug-free code. File scope. File scope begins at the start of a file or translation unit and ends at the end of the file. It applies to the identifiers declared outside all the functions. File scope identifiers are visible throughout the file as well as the program. Variable with the file scope are usually called global variables. Block scope. As we have seen in previous videos, the blocks are starting with the starting curly bracket and ends with the ending curly bracket. Within a function, formal parameters are considered functions block scope. Variables defined within a block scope are usually local to their block. Such variables are usually called local variables. Functions prototype scope. The identifiers which are declared in a function prototyping are called function prototype scope. These identifiers are not visible anywhere else except functions prototype itself. Last one is a function scope. It begins with the function and ends with the function ending. It applies within a function only to the labels such as goto. A label must be within a same function that goto it is referencing. Now let's try to understand all this scope using example. In the example, the file scope variable is declared with the integer numeric value 10. This global variable will be visible throughout the file as well as the runtime of the program. For the demo function, a function prototype is defined with the prototype variable. This variable is only visible for definition purpose. Within function declaration, we are using identifier x, which is different than prototype variable. Let's try to run the program and see the scopes. In the main function, the file scope variable, global variable with integer 10 value will be printed in the output. The block statement is declared here. In the block statement, we are defining a block variable that will not be available outside the block ending on line number 43. Let's print the block variable. Also note that global variable, file scope variable is modified within the block. Also note that block variable is not available in local variable. Let's print the updated file scope. Within function scope, a label jump here is declared with goto keyword. As an impact, it will not print line number 58. You can observe from the breakpoint. Now, it is very important to understand here that arg value is local variable completely different from the prototype scope variables declared in line number 19. If we go further in our program, then you can see a formal parameter x has same value as arg value parameter, but both variables are different and formal parameter x will be destroyed once function scope is over. Let's go back to the document and try to understand the further key points. Global variables and functions accessible throughout the files are considered under the file scope. Local variables and parameters accessible only within their block are considered as block scope. Function prototype scope are temporary identifiers used in prototypes only. It is not visible anywhere else. Function scope can be explained using a special case for labels used with goto keyword. Practical use case. Most programming language will say more about local and global, but by knowing the fine distinctions helps to avoid unintended errors. Block scopes are providing isolated environment within functions or inner blocks, preventing accidental interference of variables. File scope data should be used very carefully to avoid unintended side effects, as it will be visible across the functions as well as throughout the runtime of the program. Function prototype scopes are rarely discussed discussed but important for functions declaration. Function scope is specialized and applies only to labels, ensuring go-to targets remains within the function. By this topic, you understand the scopes available in C, recognize how scope affects identifiers visibility and lifetime. The scope will help you to write modular, maintainable and error-free code and detailed understanding on top of local versus global categories.